there's nothing you can give a coach that means more than their NBA jersey. And I'll even read on the back because it's heartfelt. So he wrote, Big Cat, that was my former nickname, I think, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate you for everything. All those times you used to cuss me out paid off.
Definitely.
This is the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing. Now, here's your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum, with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.
Welcome into this episode of the Sean Miller Podcast. Paul Fritchner, Adam Baum over here to my left, the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller, and to my right, the Chicago Bull, Dalen Terry. Dalen, it's great to have you on. This podcast, as always, is presented by Deer Park Roofing, as well as our friends at Payroll Partners, the official payroll partner of the Sean Miller Podcast, and our friends at TGE Solar. Thanks to everybody for making it possible. Make sure you subscribe to the Sean Miller Podcast at Sean Miller Pod on all social media channels. Dalen, it is great to have you here. It should be an honor for you to be here because you are, our first Arizona player to be here on the podcast. You're also our first NBA player to be on the podcast, so it's great to have you.
Appreciate it. It's good to be here. Good for y'all to have me.
Yeah, so we're here in Chicago. Xavier about to take on DePaul tomorrow night on Saturday. And Coach, we're sitting here with Dalen, who is a 2020 recruit out of high school. You played for 2 years at Arizona, 1 year for Sean. Now you've played a couple years here in Chicago for the Bulls. So congratulations, first of all, on your NBA career to this point. And Sean, before we started this show, I heard you talking just offset, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you called Dalen the quintessential OKG. And I don't think there is a higher compliment for a player than that from you. Why would you say that about Dalen?
So DT, OKG means our kind of guy.
Okay.
So the deeper meaning is, in recruiting, especially in today's world, because guys are making decisions and there's a lot of change. It's not as easy maybe as it once was to build a long-standing relationship. And you get to know me, I get to know you, and you really know who you are.
Right.
In addition to how tall you are and how you can shoot, great competitor, a guy that plays both ends, someone who cares a lot about his teammates, et cetera. So, and I mean it. You're one of the favorite guys that I've coached. And the reason is that when I look at who you are, and you have great talent, but you and me both know at the level you're at, there are guys taller, run faster, et cetera. In addition to it, I would say the knock on you when we recruited you, and one of our concerns would have been, man, he can really play and pass, but his shooting, right? Is he ever going to develop the ability to shoot a three-point shot? And just watching who you would have been as a 10th grader, 11th grader, going through the pandemic, going through a coaching change, and just becoming an NBA first-round pick, a high NBA first-round pick in your second year, I think it's a remarkable journey that you were on. And that part of it is over. Obviously, you have a long journey still in front. So back to our kind of guy, your competitive spirit, your work ethic, and I just think that you're that guy that when you say, hey, Dalen, you can't do this, that you're just made up and wired to be the guy that said, oh, really?
Right.
Watch this. And I think that's probably the bond you and I had, coach player, that worked in our brief time together. Yeah. But I love watching you play, and I'm honored to have you on here. Thanks for taking the time. But being an OKG, and I would just start with that in terms of tonight. Do you look at yourself as being a great competitor, and you think about how far you've come as a player and the naysayers, because there are always those that say he can't. How did you navigate that to become who you are here today?
Honestly, I feel like the way I grew up was like a lot of diversity just with my family and just with basketball, with everything. So it kind of was just always something that was part of my DNA. And even there would be certain things that you would tell me during the game, you didn't want me to do anymore or something like that. And I would just be like, you know what, I just want to, it's just something in my body that just get mad. It's just because you said I can't do it, I want to do it now. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like that with everything. I've been like that with a kid, with my mom, with everything, with my dad, my family. So it's kind of easy for me to do it on the basketball court. And honestly, till today, I'm still fighting some of them same naysayers and all that. And it's it actually like makes me laugh because it's like when I figure it out and I do everything you guys say I can't do, I'm gonna be the one laughing now, and you guys gonna find something else to do, and I'm gonna just keep proving you wrong. So,
your regimen right now as a young NBA player, how would you describe it? Because I think sometimes people don't realize what 82 games feels like, how long, and ups and downs.
Yeah.
Being on a team sometimes it can go on a losing streak. Being a young player that's trying to create a role and fight to get a role. And it's just like weeks go by, man, and like days go by, and it's like, how do you work on your craft? What is your mindset? What is your routine? Because I think sometimes people think you're an NBA player and, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
But you have to keep working, and I know you are that guy. Help me understand kind of what a typical week or just a day, whether it be a game day or just how you go about things now.
Honestly, like my rookie year, I'll tell you like the difference, like I had to learn this, was like I've always been the guy that is always in the gym. In my rookie year, since I wasn't in the rotation, I was trying to kill myself. Like I was trying to play every rep. I was trying to practice at night, all hours of the night. No matter if I couldn't sleep, I was going to the gym at 3 a.m. It was stuff like that I was doing. And it's cool, but January, February time, when you hit that wall, when it's 40 games in, it's like, now I'm just exhausted. Like I didn't have nothing for nobody at the end of the year at some point. So it's like you kind of have to learn when is the right time to put the work in and when is not the right time, when it's time to sit down, when it's time to get up, So, but my second year now, like a week, like before every game, I try to go in at night if I'm feeling pretty good. I try to go in at night, just do my routine and just get some shots in, shoot where I know I'm going to shoot the ball in the game. And obviously just work on the things that I know that I'm going to work on that the team's not going to work on with me with. Yeah. So I could just stay sharp and be ready for anything. But like we was talking about off camera, just like the day of the game, waking up, being a young guy, I already got to be there an hour and a half before everybody. So I'm already there. I just wired that way anyway, but now I have to be there. You know what I mean? So if shoot-around starts at 10, I'm waking up at 8 o'clock and I got to get right in my car. I don't got no time to really eat breakfast or anything like that. Got to eat breakfast at the facility just because I don't have that much time. So going in the shoot-around at 10 o'clock, I got to be there on the court 8:45. I'm shooting for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, go lift. Like in college, I didn't lift on game day. So like now this is a lot different to me. Right. So now you're just doing a real workout before the game. And it's like you trying to save yourself in college. So that was one of the things that kind of crazy. But go through shoot around after that. And then if you're not in a rotation, you're in a stay ready run. So now you got to play fives and just got to, they want you to be the star in that. So when I'm in a stay ready run, I'm not playing like.
So stay ready run is 5-on-5 full court.
Yes.
Young guys against
PD guys,
coaches, just the player development guys, and it's real basketball though. You're up and down playing.
Definitely, and they want me to. Them PD guys, they don't want to shoot the ball. So if I got two, it's me and another young guy, and 3 PD guys. We passing the ball, they pass it right back. So it's you got to get a shot up. You know what I mean? Like we just working on our game, but this is all the day of the game. So you do that. After that, probably ice, do treatment, whatever. But at that time, all the old guys is already out because they got to do their naps or their routines. But it's probably noon now, and my shooting time before the game is now at 4:30, 4:45. So now I got to go home, rush home, go to sleep, try to take my nap, and get dressed, whatever. Come back to the gym a couple hours later, and I got another workout right before the game. So that workout it's not as hard, but for an NBA player to do that, all this stuff you did in the day, just wake up, whatever. Do that workout, and then now you just got to get ready for the game. And if you're in the rotation, you're in the rotation. If you're not in the rotation, you're going to be playing at the last 2 minutes if you was up 30 or down 30. So,
and how you approach that defines a lot of who you become in the league, too, because I can imagine that type of grind can break some guys.
Definitely.
Especially when you're not getting the opportunity to be in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's where I think, again, your background and how far you've come is a blessing for you because nobody's ever given you anything.
Right.
The Sean Miller Podcast is proud to partner with Deer Park Roofing, a company that's provided elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. Whether your needs are residential or commercial, like the outstanding work on the Cintas Center, the home of Xavier basketball, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is protect what's important. And what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com. The Sean Miller Podcast is proud to partner with Payroll Partners, where you're not just a number. That means providing a best-in-class HR and payroll experience that was built on award-winning technology and live support customer service with a dedicated payroll specialist who's just a phone call away. You shouldn't have to choose between technology and customer service. At Payroll Partners, you get both. Payroll Partners is locally owned and operated by a proud Xavier alum. Visit payrollpartners.net. That's payrollpartners.net.
Welcome back here to the Sean Miller Podcast. We appreciate everyone joining us. You touched on Dalen's background, and I'm curious, you're a high school kid, you're from Phoenix. What's it like when, you get the call from Sean Miller, he knocks on your door, and he wants you to come to Arizona? What was that process like?
Honestly, it was very crazy because I'm just being a Phoenix kid, you look at Arizona like the Duke of the West Coast. So I always watched a lot of Arizona basketball. When being from Phoenix, obviously I seen ASU, but I really was like, no, U of A, that's where I want to go, blah, blah, blah. So it was always my dream school, but it was weird because I was getting a whole bunch of offers, but I never talked to Sean. So I was like, man, it's bullshit. Like, that's when I'm waiting for him to call me. So it was crazy because everybody was like, man, they want to talk to you, but they just haven't talked to you yet. And I'm just like, all right, tell them, come on, I'm ready, you know what I mean? So I had to fight myself with that, just not jumping too early when he said, I want you to come, because it was I didn't want to fall in love with me being his kid. I had to think about my basketball career, all right, how much does he want me? Where am I going to fit in and all that? So when he finally started recruiting me, it was weird because at first it was the assistant coaches. And, they say, go where you're loved at. So, some schools was having the head coach call me, but I didn't talk to Sean yet. So I remember who was the coach? Justin Gainey was calling me a lot. And I was just like, man, it's not Sean. I don't really care. He can tell me whatever he says, it's not Sean. I don't care. That's who I seen coach all these games. It was not Sean. So as soon as you called me, I was like, all right, bet. I remember calling Ray and Ato, man, I think I want to go. He's like, not too early, not too early, not too early. And it was me, the first call you had. And they was telling me, chill out. But the one thing I could say about his staff and how he recruited me was when they started. It was not, some schools will recruit you a little bit and then fall off if you have a bad game. No, it was no, we want you and this is how we're going to use you and I promise you, this is how much we want you. And they would blow my phone up, Coach Murph called my phone every day. And I was like, bro, stop calling my phone. It was it was to that point, D-Mill would call me all the time and I was just like, bro, I'm getting irritated how much they call me. So I was like, you know what? They love me that much. I got to let them back. So then I finally committed. So it was cool. Crazy process, honestly.
Again, back to him, and this is totally to his credit. He is a very good player in high school, but by the standards of a lot of NBA players, he was unheralded and probably not rated where you deserve to be rated. Again, I think that's where that chip starts to develop because It's wait a second. I'm 6'7" and I can play the point. I got long arms. By the way, I'm a year young for my class, which was your case, right? And I have the ability to defend positions and do things that not a lot of guys can. Yet I'm not getting these ratings, you know. And I think as a coach, that's one thing you always have to guard against. That you can't follow that. If we would have followed that in Dalen's particular case, it would have been easy for us to justify. Maybe we don't recruit him, but we truly recruited him for who he was, both on and off the court, and I think what we saw him becoming. And as much as I saw him becoming a terrific player, it happened in 2 years. That's a true credit to him because his will and his competitive spirit, in my mind, are unmatched, But one thing I wanted to, Dalen, bring up is we were together during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So let's go back in real time. Our season ends. There was no NCAA tournament. We were an NCAA tournament team. You're in the spring of your senior year. You have already made your decision to come to Arizona. And now we're getting ready to basically go next step. Okay, summer. There was no summer. And for context, not only did you not have a summer, but for the people outside of Arizona, I don't think anybody truly understands what June, July, and August are like in Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona in the summertime. Like, if you're in the pandemic,
Right.
Like, you know how the rest of the world's like, you can go outside or whatever.
Nah.
Like, that's the last place you want to be. So I really think that it almost affects you in a different way there. We were all just kind of like in this little, wherever we lived, right? No gym access, nothing.
Right.
And you hurt your knee.
Yeah.
So it's like, think about it. He's a year young. He's coming from Phoenix. There's no summer. There's no lifting weights. There's no like acclimation process from this is how college is going to be. And all we could do is talk to him on the phone. Then he had his surgery. So we were checking in with his surgery. By the way, his surgery, from a rehab perspective, he was pretty much on his own. If this were normal times, we would have been able to help him through the surgery, really oversee him every day. He wasn't even allowed in Tucson. As a matter of fact, none of you guys, like Ben and Christian and you guys, none of you touched Tucson until, what, late August?
Yeah, late August.
So it was like 5 months.
Yeah.
And it was so bizarre when I look back at that time. That would have been the first part of the pandemic. For you guys, I think it was the hardest because you're the only class that was leaving high school and going to college, and this is it.
Yeah. It was crazy just because, like, that summer was, like, really hard because I was already hurt. So, like you said, you already don't want to go outside in Phoenix and Tucson. It's already too hot. And I'm hurt. Now it's like, okay, some people taking the pandemic seriously, some people aren't taking it serious. Like, when I wasn't hurt, I'm like, can I go to the gym? Like, I was the type of kid, like, my dad was like, don't go outside. And I'm like, man, I'm going to the gym. Like, I'm gonna find a gym.
But it wasn't easy then.
Right.
I mean, everything was locked down.
Everything was locked up. So you gotta, the stress and hassle you had to do to just even get in the gym was ridiculous. So, like, once I got hurt, it just killed everything. I'm like, dang. So then I remember I was thinking about, like, my whole life. I'm like, man, me in the pandemic, is it gonna be like this forever? I hurt my knee. Am I gonna ever go to college at this point? Like, blah, blah, blah. So, like, once we got to school, and then all, like, the rules we had to follow, like how you were saying, like, we coming from college, I'm top recruit, you telling me I can't go to no party? Like, I'm like, man, I can't go where? Like, what are you talking about? So I remember you was stressing, like, just stay inside. You guys just hang out together, and it was just like, this is tough, ridiculous. Like,
but in your case, like for your game too, there's two things. One, the physical element of lifting weights and eating food, and because you were super thin. I mean, you were in 180 some pounds coming out of high school.
65.
165, think about that. 6'7", 165, 18 years old, has a knee situation that he's working through. We can't help him with. And the one thing that he loves to do is get in the gym and shoot. Couldn't work on a shot. He couldn't work on a shot barely by himself. And then 5 months go by, so it's like, okay, it's go time. Yeah. We would have those Zoom meetings, right?
Man,
and then his class, we had a couple international guys. So they're in Lithuania, Estonia, right? France. Right. Then you have guys like in LA, like Christian was in his sister's apartment here in Phoenix. We were all on this screen, and we would try to talk and just kind of, hey, this is what it is. Stay with it. This is what we're going to do. Crazy. And then look, now we're here. And then the other part is we tested.
Oh my God.
I think every day.
Yes.
Of the school year at 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning.
Yes. Like even on off days, you got to wake up at 6 in the morning. That was one of the worst things like ever. Putting that thing up your nose every single day.
Every single day.
It wake you up every single day.
Yeah. and how about how James would put the thing in his nose?
Man,
James Akinjo.
Man, what me and James were just talking about that. He was like, at some point in the year, we was tired of doing it, just going like this. I'm not, because if you go out for COVID, you're gonna be out for 2 weeks now. Now it's over with. Like
the game, see, there's the game within the game right there. Yeah.
Man, what?
Because you remember now, you're playing games, and in the West, when I say things were shut down, like we had cardboard cutouts. I had a cardboard cutout of my dog.
In the stands.
My family. He would have cardboard cutouts of his family, and it was all in McHale Center, and these guys are signing up to play home games at McHale Center. Grew up watching, what it feels like to play in that type of atmosphere, in that type of arena, and he's going to play in front of fake music,
right?
Fake crowd noise and cardboard cutouts. We played Stanford at the Golden State Warriors G League facility. You remember that?
Ooh, that was the first time you yelled at me. Like, really yelled at me. I ain't gonna lie.
You probably got to hear everything he said during a game, though.
That was the worst part. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right about that.
Imagine McHale Center, like how loud it is now, like the reputation of that. And he's coaching. You could tune him out, but I hear every single thing he's saying. It's horrible. So, like, just playing them games with him coaching you could hear every shoe squeak, you could hear the pin drop, you could hear everything. It got to the point where it was just like, I don't really is this what life has came to? Like, is this how it's
Right.
gonna always be? So it kind of like was a bummer, like, because think about like how our team was. That was a good team that we had, and like the home atmosphere. Like McHale wins you some games sometimes.
No
So
question.
like it's like a team like us where some teams respect it, some teams don't. Like we need our crowd. So like we had to create
I'm
our
telling
own
you,
energy.
Dalen, one thing I learned that year, I think all of us, looking back, there's so many things you look back on and think differently of, but you take for granted what it is playing at home or playing on the road. And even on the road, going against the crowd, you would say, well, it's easier, right? In some degree it is, but it's like to not have the crowd in general, whether they're against you or for you, it's
just
a
weird.
completely different game and feeling, you know? And now the last part is, and we weren't eligible for the tournament. I had to tell you guys that, hey, by the way, we're not eligible for the tournament. So let's add all that up now, right? The pandemic, coming in here with your knee surgery and your injury, being 18, 19 years old away from home for the first time. You never went to class because everything was online, Zoom. You had to stay in your room. Got tested every morning at 6 a.m. And no people, had to wear a mask everywhere.
In practice.
In practice, we were wearing masks. You're right. Had to practice hard, and then you say, "Oh, and by the way, we're not eligible for the tournament." That was, I think, that was the hardest moment that I've had.
Yeah.
Just because none of you guys had anything to do with anything, and it's like, man, think about all what I just said, and again, for me to watch not only you but all of you guys go through that, come out on the other side and become so many great things. Because it's not just you thriving. There's so many guys doing great things that were there with us, at that time.
I remember that moment, like when you told us, like, me and James were real close. I was my best friend on the team, so anything that was going on, we would always talk. So it was morning you told us that, or no, you had called us in. It was a meeting. It was a meeting. But I think he might have knew early, and he came to my room and was like, DT is bad. And I'm like, what you mean? And he was like, we ain't going to the tournament. And I'm like, wow. Like, he was like, he said specifically that you said you were worried about the young guys. He was like, I think he's talking about you, like worried about like how everything you had to come through and now we just can't play. And he was like, man, it's going to be all right. And I remember you talking to us about it, and it was just like, damn.
Yeah,
like, we already was struggling.
No
so
doubt.
like,
But I'm going to tell you, all things considering, I think we did a great job with all of that. Really.
Still overcome.
And I think like you can always dial back to those lessons. Like truly, and I don't even know if you know this because you're in the NBA and doing different things, but we played at UConn recently, and last year we beat UConn twice.
Yeah.
And obviously they were great. They won a national championship, and we were really good as well, right? But this time was different. I mean, they beat us by 43, and it was kind of like an easy 43. And, okay, so like, where do you go from here? There is no playbook for that. And as you know, guys can lose their confidence.
Yeah.
And part of what I really thought about, as a coach is, okay, what are those times that were like the most difficult?
Right.
And I thought about walking in and telling you guys that.
Yeah.
And just how you can overcome anything. I mean, if you stick together and just, if you have each other and things are being done right, you know. But I think that your generation, as years go on, you had it the hardest because anyone who's in college for the first time and had to deal with the pandemic, I think that's something that, like, it's hard to explain to somebody.
It's really hard to explain. Like, you just had to be there, really, like, to understand, like, how crazy it was. Like, my friends would come down to see me, and they just, like, I can't come to the game. I'm
Right.
like, no.
Can't talk to anyone.
Like,
so that leads me to this. So we had all these rules. Sometimes I was wondering, like, does anyone else in this country have these rules? Because sometimes you turn the TV on and there's people in the stands. In the West, there was no people. So we were just sticking with it. So we go play at ASU.
Yeah.
Same state.
Yeah.
Drove to the game. Go in the arena.
They got fans.
There's people in. There's people in the arena.
Yeah.
Wasn't packed, but there were.
They had enough.
How many do you think were there?
Probably like 80, 200 people.
But that's 80 more than we had. We literally had zero people, right? So I remember thinking, like, damn, 80 people. Like, it felt, and they were loud, just like you mentioned, like they can yell. And we won that game on James Akinjo either assist to
he shot that ball. He shot the ball.
Or a bad shot that he had claimed was an assist. But
Azulis.
Azulis tipped it in, and it was the buzzer shot. But again, when you look at that year without a tournament, there's certain moments. But the joy of that day and just knowing that those people were in there and a certain person yelling things from the crowd
definitely
at you, being from Phoenix. And then the next year you guys went there with the crowd and really took it to them.
Definitely. And you know how it is for me being from Phoenix. That game means a lot to me. So just that for that to happen, that game, when they have fans and we don't have nothing and the people in the crowd talking to me specifically, and then we hit a game winner, and we're just celebrating. And it's just us in there screaming.
Right.
It's like
it's true. I mean, you know that adage, you only have each other. We did that. We were just
like it's
we were
just us.
Guys, just hooping. We didn't have anything else to do but that. Really,
he was screaming. He was in the locker room celebrating. We go out. You know, if it's a big game, after the game, someone hits a game winner. You go out to the buses. The fans are screaming. It's just us out there, just like
no, that's right.
Like,
there's nobody doing anything. It was so weird.
It was just like,
I'm glad that's over, and but that's because remember that was our time together. You know, then when that ended and the world reopened, I was gone, and that's why that image is so clear in my mind. Coaching you and you guys during that period of time.
Definitely.
Stop renting your power, own it. TGE Solar makes it easy to purchase solar panels for your home or business so you can take control of your monthly electricity bill and start saving today. They'll help you find the best solar system to meet your needs, and their expert in-house installation team makes the process seamless. They're proud to be based in Cincinnati, family owned and operated by a Xavier alum. Mention this podcast and save $1,000. Visit TGESolar.com to request your free energy evaluation today. The Sean Miller Podcast is proud to partner with Deer Park Roofing, a company that's provided elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. Whether your needs are residential or commercial, like the outstanding work on the Cintas Center, the home of Xavier basketball, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is protect what's important, and what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com. Welcome back to the Sean Miller Podcast. And Dalen, one thing I'm interested to hear from you is your transition between your freshman and your sophomore year, and now in your second year in the NBA as well. So what are some of the lessons that you felt like you learned from Sean and his coaching staff, and what helped you get to those points where you're lighting that competitive fire? You're trying to overcome maybe that doubt in your mind. You're trying to become a better player. Was there a switch that flipped? Was there something that happened? How'd that go down for you?
Okay, my freshman year, I was starting most of the year, or most of the year I was starting. But then once it started to waver a little bit, I started just question myself, does coach still like me? And what am I supposed to do? But in my head, I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to show him a weakness. So I just was like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna be all right. It is what it is. And then I finally got the courage to go talk to him. Coach, what is it? And he basically just told me to keep doing what I'm doing. My shot's gonna fall, blah, blah, blah. I think a game right after that is when I had one of my best games in my freshman year, and it was just you know what? He shouldn't even have to tell me anything. It was just come on, bro, you're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. Because you're gonna have ups and downs in your basketball career. I'm having ups and downs in my NBA career right now. And it's to the point where no matter what, development is real, and it's gonna kick in at a certain point whenever you need it. And you're gonna have bad games, you're gonna have good games, but you can't dwell on stuff too long, especially playing for a coach like him. Or you're just gonna stay in it. So,
what sticks out to you about Sean and his development and how he helped you develop in college?
Just he held me accountable. I showed him that I wanted to work out and I was gonna do this every single day. I had a routine that I come in early in the morning before everybody, sometime that night, and he knew that. So I kind of showed him that early. So if he gets a report back that I'm not doing it, it's gonna be look, he's not taking it as serious as he was. So it kind of without him even saying anything, it was holding me accountable. I got to keep doing what I'm doing just so he knows I'm still working. No matter what my minutes are, whatever, how good of a game I am, I'm still working, and you're gonna put me in the game eventually.
So. DT, I really believe this. In college, and sometimes it happens maybe in high school. Sometimes, and it's probably unfortunate, the first time that guys go through it is maybe in the NBA. But maybe the best class that you can take in college in terms of learning and that can be the most helpful for you rest of your life is just the adversity and the obstacles.
Yeah.
And sometimes, man, like the bad stuff that hits you, and yet you have to go through it, overcome it, come out on the other side of it, be better because of it. And when you look back, you just kind of said it there a second ago, man, I'm going to be all right. Like, I can handle things. Like, that little thing that I thought was a big thing, it was nothing. And then that sets you up for something that actually is bigger, an injury, a setback. And instead of running for the hills and looking for change and blame, no, you keep fighting and you keep working. And sometimes you have to evolve and adapt, do something a different way. And I think you learn that in many ways through a freshman year like you had. Because think about all the different things that I've already talked about. We didn't even talk about playing time or points per game or what you shot from the three-point line. So it's like you add that on, that next layer. I think that fight you have, you know, is your greatest gift. I really mean it. And, you know, it's just like, see you as a young player carving out a role. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen, not if.
That's kind of how I look at life now. Because honestly, my freshman year, I relate a lot of things to like how that was. Because to a lot of people, that was like my lowest moment of basketball. Like, all right, like he was a 4-star, 5-star recruit, and he goes to Arizona now. We don't know about him, you know, because you know how the pressure is for some kids. You come into a big school like Arizona, they think you're going to be one and done. And me and you both had talked about like this might be 2-3 years, but whenever it happens, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the world don't know that. It's just us talking. So now I have to deal with the outside people talking, whatever. You got to get to the point where it's just like you can't care anymore. Like it's just like
that's right.
You have to understand that whatever it is that you do, you got to just keep doing it, and it's going to happen whenever it happens. And if you have a bad time, it's not going to feel like a bad time when you have a great time because that's just what it is. Like that's just how this game goes. Like you're going to have bad games. But when you have 40 points after that 0-point game, you're going to be like, it's nothing. Like you'll be all right.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That fight that is something that I think you're not given that. You got to kind of acquire it through all the hardship and different things that are happening. You know, a guy I was talking to a friend of mine who coaches in the NBA, and obviously I'm friends with Coach Donovan, you know, but it wasn't him. It was another guy, and he said, you know, the NBA is a game, you know, it's an industry of change. Like sometimes, you know, you're around the trade deadline, you know, you may have somebody that you love is playing great. He's the leader of your locker room or a second unit player that you know if you didn't have him, you would be so different. And the news hits you, he's been traded. Well, you still have practice later that day. You're going to play a game the next day. And by the way, there's someone else coming in on a trade the other way, and you got to get to know him and welcome him. And it's like, people don't see that side of the NBA. And, you know, that change for a player, it's also equal too. And it's like being able to handle that.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, like in college, you think of team, you think of your brothers, you think about guys you want to hang out with. You know, as a college coach, you always tell guys be together all the time. So in the NBA, it's kind of different because I come in the NBA, I'm 20, 21 years old. My oldest teammate's 35, 36, and it's like, he don't want to hang out with me. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're not really like all the way together sometimes. Like some of them are, but you know how it goes. So when he gets traded, even though we might not be cool, I have to pass him the ball 30 times this game. But he gets traded, now I have to figure something out because the new player plays totally different from him. I got to think about his personality, think about how he's going to get coached, how he's going to yell at me if I don't pass him the ball a certain way. So it's just like things change so fast in the NBA, you got to be able to adapt quick because that's what we get paid for at this point. So,
DT, I got to bring this up. You know, I think somebody who is very influential in your basketball career, certainly somebody who's always been in your corner, regardless of circumstances, is your travel team director, Atope, Compton Magic, legendary travel team. But, you know, Atope obviously and I don't know how many guys he's had, but I even saw Eric Armstead, the defensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers. He played for the Compton Magic.
Yeah.
I remember going to the games, watching him. Man, that dude's big.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just telling you, he's going to be an NFL player, and here he is playing in the Super Bowl. But Dalen played on that team with some really good players. Jalen Clark, who's in your class, in my mind, is very similar to you in that he didn't get the respect he deserved. I made a huge mistake by not recruiting him.
Yeah.
And but when I think about your development in the Compton Magic, like how important being on that team, Ray Arvisu, those type of guys, Ato, that how they can go the extra mile to be with you, and then and just think about the time you spent in the spring and in the summer and all the different things, not only with those guys but your teammates.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the summer travel team doesn't get the respect that it deserves in terms of what it can do for young people like yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I thank Atop and Ray and them guys a lot because, honestly, the way our team was structured, we had stars. Evan Mobley, Onyeka Okongwu, Isaiah Mobley, Jalen Clark, the list goes on, and we're all on one team. So it's like we all were coming from different backgrounds, and we had to figure out it all together. Like, no matter what, there were some guys that played on an AAU team that sucked, but it was just them.
Think about the team you just said. Go through that again.
I'm going to say everybody. It goes me, Evan Mobley, Isaiah Mobley, Onyeka Okongwu, Johnny Juzang, Jalen Clark. I'm missing somebody. The list goes on.
Dalen Terry.
I said me first.
Yeah, no, serious though. Yeah.
So all those guys on one team, and we got to figure it out. Like, because I was playing on a 16 team, Jalen was playing on a 17 team. I'll come up, play a little bit, and then the next year when it was just us 17, it was me, Evan, and Jalen, and it's like, and Johnny before he committed to Kentucky, and it's just like, we're all stars. We all want shots. We all want certain things. But Ato was like, bro, when you guys get to the NBA, you guys have to play with other guys that's been the guy their whole life. So you guys better figure this shit out right now. And that actually like made it a lot easier for me to just be like, you know what, like, okay, he's good. I'm good too. Like, it is what it is. Like, we're gonna do what we do, and we got to figure it out together. And that's what's gonna make us good. And that's why we was one of the best teams that in 2 years.
Yeah.
Sean, I find it fitting hearing you talk about Dalen and the way that he would fight, and whether this was premeditated or not, maybe it was, but this is the night before the game. Your basketball team right now is 11-10, 5-5. You brought him in to talk to the team at this point in the season, and I guess Dalen, like, are you aware of what's going on with his team right now, and maybe why you were a good person to talk to them tonight?
I heard about it a little bit. I can only imagine what's going on. I watched a couple games. I seen the game Dalen hit the game winner.
Georgetown.
I seen that game. And sometimes if I ever see Xavier like on the TV, I always turn it on because, it's my guy. So I always tune in a little bit, but not as much as I should, But
you're busy.
I was told that there was a message that would need to be relayed. And obviously that was the same message I was going to put because, like Sean said, like, my whole life has always been a fight in adversity. So just being able to talk to a team, I know if I would have had this when I was in college, it might have made me go even harder than what I'm already going. So I can only imagine what it's going to do for the team.
Well, especially for a group with 6 freshmen trying to learn and come together.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy.
That would have been the team that he was on. So we have here, that would have been identical to.
We had a whole bunch of freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, some good ones too, by the way.
Yeah. All right. And you brought Coach a gift.
Right?
Yeah, I got it right here. And I'll tell you, there's nothing you can give a coach that means more than their NBA jersey. And I'll even read on the back because it's heartfelt. So he wrote, Big Cat, that was my former nickname, I think, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate you for everything. All those times you used to cuss me out paid off.
Definitely.
I really didn't cuss you out, though. I mean,
What?
It's all in good faith and love.
Man, what?
DT, I appreciate you being here, man, and you didn't have to do it, and that's what separates you from so many guys, and always pulling for you. And I promise I'll be at a Chicago Bulls game here
Yes, sir.
as soon as we can once our season ends.
Appreciate you, Coach.
You
Thanks
got
for
it,
having
man.
me.
Adding to the list, an NBA player on the podcast.
First Arizona player, first NBA player, and couldn't come in a better form than this guy.
Yes, sir.
Podcast charts just going right up. Thanks to our sponsors, as always, at Deer Park Roofing, Payroll Partners, TGE Solar, and everybody for tuning in to this podcast. Dalen, as Coach said, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Best of luck with the rest of your season as well.
This has been the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing, with your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum. Join us again soon for another episode with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.